This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, we'll have a roll call. Just please respond. Tom Brown.
Here.
Patrick.
Here.
Leslie. Here. Catherine. Here. Crystal. Marie. Here. Louise. Yes. And Kathy Schweitzer and Deborah called in. Excused absence. All right. Here's Crystal.
Here.
All right, we'll take a look at the minutes and see if there's any comments, additions, or deletions to the October minutes.
I make a motion to approve the October minutes. Second.
Made a motion, Pat seconded by Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain. I abstain because I was absent.
Don't let that happen
I
again.
should have abstained next time. I was absent.
Two abstentions. All right, Cindy, as soon as you get yourself organized, you are next on the agenda. The director's report. There are a few items in there. Thank you for getting the recording going.
Okay, and then if we see that somebody else needs to pop in, we can let them in.
Click them in.
Okay, so our response to the SNAP or food stamps program being stopped for the time period that it was stopped, and fuel assistance or LIHEAP, which is stopped unless you truly have a very specific kind of emergency and is not in the federal budget yet, as far as we understand it. So what we have done, and I think even with the restoration of SNAP or food stamps, it's important to keep having a response because food prices are going up. And the local food pantry, Easthampton Community Center, reported that, you know, they weren't even allowed to put in their regular order for January for the food that they need. Maybe now with the shutdown ending, they will be, but there's pressures on the community organizations and there's pressures on the families. So we looked at what can we do as a senior center to help people. We're limited, so even if people gave us gift cards to give to families, we as a municipal department can't just give out gift cards. That actually there's a very specific process you would have to go through with city council would have to approve every gift card. And so the first thing that we want to do is we want to offer in-house dining using the Highland Valley meals again as a test run, because those meals are free, even though there's a suggested donation of $4. And so if you look, when the December newsletter comes out, and I think we gave a heads up in the November newsletter, you'll see it. There's a new program called Winter Cozy Meal. So from January through March, we'll be offering on-site dining on Tuesdays. And the reason we're doing that is because bingo ended and we have an opening. If we also looked at, could we do it on other days? It would greatly impact programming. So we thought in the test run of this, we'll keep going with the grab and go meals on Wednesdays and Fridays that we do behind the bank. But, you know, so that we wouldn't impact any programming that people love, because otherwise we'd have to go off site and try to do it at a church or something somewhere. And then we would lose staff during that, you know, time frame. So that's one thing that we're doing.
Sorry, Cindy.
Yeah.
What are the days again?
So it'll be Tuesdays from January 6th through the last Tuesday in March to start with. And the way it works is the same way as it does for the Highland Valley meals, where you have to do an enrollment in the program. You're not eligible if you already get Meals on Wheels. and then you sign up, preferably once a month, but you could sign up with less lead time for the meal of that particular week. Yep.
When you said that you could do it other days except for other programming going on, probably just another example of why we need a new senior center.
I can't even smile about it because, that may sound jokey, but I have a map that Dawn, program manager, drew up of, here's everything we're offering, all the rooms, here, if we squeeze it in here, these 3 things have to go away. And we even thought about, could we just set up a couple of tables for people while other things are going on? But then if they're talking, and also just imagine like you're smelling salmon and somebody's trying to play mahjong next to you and somebody's trying to knit over here, and so people are coming and going, and then there's the outreach business going on. It just, there's only so much you can do in one room.
But the meals would be at the center.
The meal on Tuesday would be at the center,
Okay.
but there would be nothing else going on during that.
And my point is that sometime in 26, we'll probably be making 26 or 27, making a pitch to the community of why they should support the funding for a new senior center. Somebody needs to remember what you just said.
Right. And so what we're doing with this particular meal, the reason why we're calling it the winter cozy meal is it's not going to be, it's the same food and it's still shrink wrapped, and it comes hot. But we're going to make, it was actually Sandy Eddy, our volunteer who's on the Friends. When I was talking about it with her, and she came up with this whole concept. Like, let's make it something nice. Let's have hot beverages, like tea and coffee and hot chocolate, like nothing that you need certification for. And let's just make it nice. And she said, I'd like to be there and support and staff it. And we'll also use senior tax work off to staff it and just make it something nice, because the other part of it is, I know the public is hearing this here, so you won't be, when you see Winter Cozy Meal in the newsletter, maybe you'll have this image of it now that I'm about to say, but there is, you have to be 60, and then basically everybody's eligible once they're 60. But the fact is that you're signing up for a social service meal as well, and you're coming in public. You're checking in at the kiosk. You're sitting down. There's no privacy, and you're not subsumed into a larger meal, where everybody is coming and participating. So that's the other thing about it is I don't want to say it's like coming in for a fuel assistance appointment, but we don't want the stigma of coming in for a meal at the senior center. So another benefit of having a new senior center that has at least a part-time dining program is that everybody's coming and going and having meals. Is it really fair to have a senior center that's for everybody? And, the only people we can serve meals to, it's more of a social service meal in some ways, right? So that's just you wanted to know, well, what's the pitch from the senior center?
Is it dine-in only or also
No.
takeout?
Every time we offer anything from Highland Valley, you have the option to take it out. But because this meal is indoors and we can't staff the driveway, it's so dangerous, our driveway. Another reason why we need another senior center. You have to come in to get that meal to go, so if you can't get out of your car when you come on Wednesdays and Fridays. But I also want to say, for people who can't get out of their car, maybe consider getting the home delivered meals. So the other thing which is 5 days a week, and again, you don't have to pay for that. The benefit of getting home delivered meals is, what if you're 90 years old and you're living alone? Then the home care managers are going to hear from the meals drivers, at least that you called from the kitchen. Just drop it off and come in to get it is a nice thing. But it's not socializing. So the state has recently said they really want to see with the home delivered, with the grab and go meal program, socializing. And so this is one way that we can increase the socializing is with the Tuesday meal.
Absolutely nothing you can do about this, but in the back of my mind sometimes when you say the eligibility requirement is over 60. I have this concern that the people who really need it may not be reaching out for it. And I could go there for lunch because I'm over 60. And you're not going to turn me away. I've got to, based on my own conscience, not get it because I don't need it or deserve it. But I have this fear that some people out there are just too proud to ask for it.
Let me respond to that. These meals are not just meant for people who have, whose fixed income is less than somebody else's. It's also meant because physically a lot of people can't prepare their meals anymore, or they're caregiving so intensively for their partner that they just need a respite from cooking. That's the case of many of the people who come to the grab and go. If you look at them and, if you know them a little bit and where they live and their car, they're not just doing, and they make a donation. That's the other thing, is that you can just pay $4 for the meal. Look, you're gonna get a home cooked meal in Ludlow for $2. You're gonna spend more on this Highland Valley meal. So now, why did we stop doing this before the pandemic? We were down to maybe 5 to 10 people sometimes at these meals, and that's why we stopped. So people just didn't want them. So we're trying again. So that's one thing we're doing. The other thing we're doing is, we really want everybody who's eligible for shut-off protection on their utilities to get it. You don't automatically get it. You have to, as Crystal and I know, you have to apply for it. You got to call Eversource and tell them to send you the form. It doesn't just come in your packet every month. So the risk is that if their electricity is shut off because they're behind, and then after the fact they get signed up, that's a whole fridge full of food that spoiled, as recently happened to somebody, and she lost a lot of food. And that didn't have to happen. And the Highland Valley home care managers may not be aware that you're not signed up for utility shut off. So again, everybody should get a benefits counseling checkup with us after open enrollment is over. But at the same time, anybody who's listening, just make sure your neighbors have shut off protection, etc. Not everyone is eligible for it. And then, so LIHEAP, the big concern that people are going to be spending all winter on their utilities and maybe not get as much reimbursement as they got last year from fuel assistance, or maybe none. This is a huge concern at the same time that health insurance costs are going up. We don't have an easy answer for that other than to just keep help people applying for services and support them in maintaining their services.
If I'm not mistaken, Cindy, there's another possibility of a shutdown January 30th.
So the continuing resolution expires January 30th. So that and of course we're doing 2 drives right now, the Share the Warmth that we always do for the warm items that we bring to Smock Housing and Easthampton Community Center, and then the Thanksgiving, which it's not called Thanksgiving, but it's like the November food drive. And then in January we'll do another food drive of like hearty canned soups to go to Easthampton Community Center. Just for people who want to help others. And we've also had outreach from people who want to do like adopt a family or collect food from restaurants. And I've tried to connect those people to other, resources, because right now we don't have the capacity to take in food from restaurants and send them out to other people or that kind of thing. Okay. So the next thing is programs related to brain health and dementia that are under consideration. It's too soon to say, other than to just give you an introduction. So as part of our strategic planning, which is paused right now because there's a lot of work to do on it, okay? But we already knew we had a major hole in our programming and support services, which is that there isn't a lot being offered to help people who are not diagnosed but want to improve their brain health specifically, other than general exercise, general socialization that we do. And the other part is for people who are diagnosed with some form of dementia or related we don't have a program of support other than our after hours Alzheimer's Association support group for caregivers. So we know those are holes. Coincidentally, two resources came to us that we're working with. One is Mass General Brigham and Harvard has a project called My Brain Health. It's a scientific study of like a proven methodology to prevent cognitive decline with all kinds of lifestyle and support and counseling factors. And the study is being conducted by psychologists who specialize in older adults. And they want to see, since they're in Boston, right, can they bring that program remotely to senior centers and partner with senior centers to have the program delivered using their staff. So this program using their staff. So we volunteered to be part of the pilot study. And I think Southampton volunteered, but I don't know if the connection has been made yet. We had our initial meeting and it still needs to be approved by the hospital. So it's not happening yet, but let's assume it gets approved by the hospital. So what it would be is in the winter and then again in the spring, we would have 2 cohorts of people not diagnosed go through the program. I think there's 10 each in each group, so that would be 20 people at the end of the year by June 30th. It's a Mass Councils on Aging project. I think they're the ones who would be paying for this, I'm not sure. And then there would be focus groups with, say, some of you folks and staff and some community members to talk about, I think the program and how senior centers can help implement the program. So it's being part of a study, but it would also benefit the 20 people who take the program and their brain health, hopefully. So that's program number 1. We're waiting to hear if it's going to happen. And I'll be coordinating that program along with help from our activity coordinator, Ian. And then the second program is that a speech and language pathologist who teaches at UMass came to the library and came to us and said, what about a project to help people who are diagnosed and their caregivers with communication difficulties through using things like making their own personal storybook. So like a creative element to it that you would leave with, and being in groups where the person with the diagnosis has a speech and language pathologist working with them. Their care partners, if they have one, would be in a separate group at the same time working with another speech and language pathologist around communication issues and giving them support. So we met with the library and this provider to try to start designing that program. It can't be at the senior center, again, no place to do this. So it would be at the library annex, but it's still in process, still waiting to hear back because the person applied for a Title III-B grant from Highland Valley and didn't get it. So I want to see their grant application and we want to look at this. And so what we would be doing is we would use the formula grant funds that we get, just like we do to pay other instructors. We would pay for the first iteration of this. And I forget right now what we would be spending. I can tell you, it might be like $300 a session because it's 2 providers. It's pretty reasonable. So we would pay for the first cohort of 20 people to go through this, 20 to 25, like 10 people with a diagnosis and 10 caregivers. And if it is successful, that we would treat that as a pilot project. Then I could apply for a grant to do it again and refine it and iron it out better. And if it's something that's really successful, it would be a model of treatment where there are so many clinicians that really can't even afford to see people individually anymore, and they need to see them in groups. So we would basically be doing that kind of health care or slash social support at the senior center. I think these sessions are an hour and a half, something like that. So it's not a day support program. So that's the second thing. I'm waiting to hear whether we're going to do that or not. I'll give you an update on that. I'm not going to take questions about that because it's pointless because it's not developed yet. And when it is developed, then we'll be presenting it to the community. Transportation program assessment. Okay, so last time we met, we talked about what are the turnaway numbers on our programs and services. That is a little hard to get on programs, so I decided to start with transportation because everybody says there's not enough transportation in the valley, and there's not enough transportation at the senior center. Well, let's take a look at what we actually did, what destinations are people doing, and then what are our turnaway numbers. And every time I get into it, it's so hard because we've tracked it different ways in our database. We've called things different things. And so it was all apples and oranges, and I've been wrestling it into submission. So it's still not ready to spit out at you as paper, but I can go over it, and then I can go over where I see variations happening in the trends. The more I talk about it with more people, the more factors there are to consider. So the first thing to know is that PVTA the fixed route buses went free, right, for various periods of time, and now that's free all the time. And the senior van at some point went free. That's our direct competitor, but also our direct partner, because we routinely refer, if we can't serve people, we routinely refer them to PVTA. And sometimes right off the top, we do it because we know we only have 2 companion drivers in March. Everybody's on vacation and they need to go to Springfield. Instant PVTA, because we don't go to Springfield with the vans. Okay, so what was the impact of PVTA going free on us? So I reached out and asked them for their numbers. And they actually, regardless of whether our numbers went down or not, their numbers skyrocketed of Easthampton seniors when they went free. And so for FY25, which is July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025, their paratransit, which includes ADA and older adults, okay, paratransit increased 52% over the prior year, and approximately 52% of those paratransit riders are the senior van. So, and they know for sure that most of that increase is due to the fare-free program. The year before, the first year of the fare-free program, the numbers increased 14% over the FY23. And approximately 40% of those riders were the dial-a-ride passengers. So when I heard that, I thought, ooh, I bet I'm gonna find that our medical rides are down because people are going over to PVTA. Actually, medical rides are only down by a really, really small amount from FY24 to FY25, like say 50 rides out of 1850. So if they didn't tell me, is the increase in rides medical or is it other shopping or employment or other errands? But just assuming it's mostly medical, that would then imply that just the total need is greater. And also, I don't know how many unduplicated people that is. So are people going to the doctor more often? Do people have more severe medical needs? Is it more people? So just keep that in mind when I'm talking about our statistics. Okay. So first, yeah.
I just wanted to interject just from my
Yeah.
own experience as a companion driver. The specialty care, medical care, all those specialists are in the Springfield area. So, right, that's a key piece right there, whether it's podiatry, orthopedic.
Right, and so by that token, then people have to use PBTA instead of us to go to their specialists unless we happen to have a volunteer ride for them.
So did they give you a number? Like how, I know they said 52%.
Yeah.
Do you have like the?
Yes, so for Easthampton, now remember, okay. So for Easthampton in FY '25, there were 33,829 paratransit riders. So just over half of those are older adults.
Wow.
For FY '24, there were 2,517 paratransit instead of 3,829. And that was increased by 14% over FY '23. So just under half of those were older adults. So, and also keep in mind, we're not just referring people there, we're training them to not be afraid of PVTA every day. We're talking them through it, we're holding their hand on making appointments, we're riding with them on the fixed route bus to Northampton to do fun things. I mean, we ourselves have noticed that when I started working there, people would complain and whinge on about how terrible it was to ride with PVTA. And now they're like, oh, okay, I'll make the call. So that's partly what we call mobility training or travel training.
And I'm wondering if part of that increase is trying to compare apples to apples. I mean, are there different hours of operation that we don't
Yes.
operate?
Yes.
And destinations they go to that we don't go to, not just
So-
Springfield, but
Yeah.
other destinations?
Destinations, they go on weekends, they go at night. So they can go earlier in the day, I think, 24 hours notice instead of 48 hours notice. And if you want to go to Springfield with us, that's a volunteer ride. You need to give us even more notice than 48 hours, not as a policy, but as a practice. So yes.
Springfield, Holyoke, East Long Meadow, I've been, I mean, it's really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That explains a lot of.
So let's talk about our turnaway numbers, because I think this would be interesting. So what I found out is that in a typical month, we get anywhere from, so look at so just calling us and saying, can I get a van ride? Or just calling us and saying, I need a ride. And you don't know that you need a volunteer ride, but you're just calling for a ride, which is anywhere from, in this time period, the last 12 months from today back 12 months, there were anywhere from 30 to almost 70 ride requests a month. And of that, we referred each month over to our volunteers between like 5 to 8 rides a month. And on that end of things, they were able to serve almost every single person via the volunteer program. And that's because at the level of calling the van for a van ride, we triaged. So we didn't send anybody to the companion program that we knew would be a better fit for PVTA, or that we knew we couldn't serve at all because like people were on vacation or it was too late to call the PVTA or whatever the thing was. So we had so few turnaways statistically, and this is something that I have, written up and I will send you folks. Whereas the companion rides from like say 20 to 30 requests a month, we only turned away 1, 2, 3 people and sent them to PVTA. Really the only, I don't think we found any that we denied outright at that stage. If we were gonna say to them, there's really no other option for you because physically you're not eligible to ride with any of us, that would be like an outright denial. So, like they actually need somebody to physically put them in their wheelchair and like they need a PCA, and PVTA doesn't do that and we don't do that. So, so that, and then some referrals might have gone, if you have Mass Health and you can get a prescription for PT1 transportation, that referral would go to MART, but there's very few of those referrals. So those aren't tracked as such in here. So what I have to say about this is we're serving almost everybody who asks us, And if not, we're serving them by doing what senior centers are supposed to do and referring them to the Regional Transit Authority. And that was a surprise to me. I thought we were turning away a lot more people. However, there may be people who self-restrict coming to us because after the pandemic, we trained them that we really need to save our resources for medical and for medical rides, group grocery trips, and like getting to the drugstore. And if you needed your hair done or something like that, we were like, we'll try to get to it kind of message. So there could be people who are like, yeah, it's not worth going to the senior center. I'll just go straight to PBTA, or I'll ride the fixed route bus, or I'll get a ride from a friend. So that's one trend that could be happening because we notice we're doing fewer errands than we did in the old days. Also, it's the particular people that we're serving. People are literally dying off who we had down as like, they're going to Elan Hair Salon every week until the end of time. Can you imagine how many rides a year that was?
Right,
That was a lot of rides a year,
Yeah.
okay? And also we made a policy that we don't ever allow anybody to just be on our roster every week anymore. We started that in 2023, and that may have cut down on the number. So what we do instead is we proactively call people and say to them, hey, you're going to Big Y this week, remember? Could you please tell us when you want to go to Big Y in December, and try to get all their list of days for when they want to go grocery shopping proactively, but we're not just keeping them on the list because there were too many last minute cancellations. So that, so what I'm leading up to, so I'm going to tell you, so I'm telling you some of the things that have happened, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about what's happened with our numbers. All right. So some other trends we noticed is that if you may, so people started getting home delivery from CVS, Walmart, and Amazon, and Stop and Shop all said you can use your SNAP with us and get home delivery. So the next generation of people and the people trained in the pandemic are also probably getting more home delivery, so they're shopping less. Now that's a problem because there's less socialization, there's less exercise happening, so we can think about how we want to market grocery shopping to them. And then the other thing is that home health aides can now help people order their food remotely and then just go pick it up instead of taking people shopping. Also, if you remember, back before, do you remember we had a budget year, I think it was FY24, where the mayor said, let's keep transportation to 40 hours a week. And we did it, but that removed our flexibility to just add more hours, more drivers on days. And so we don't have the capacity to shove in some more rides all the time the way Brendan was before, I think, or trying to do, and I was trying to do when I got here. So there's so many factors that affect our ride numbers. Also, a couple of years ago, we were still social distancing on the vans. I think that was FY22, where we were taking fewer people at a time. So what I can say is that our medical rides are about the same that they've been over the last couple of years, but the grocery shopping has gone to, we're taking fewer people on the group grocery shopping trips, at least to Big Y. Some of that is just because the van is smaller, but not so much because we break them up into groups. And when I have the grocery numbers all laid out, like here's all the different trips, here's how many people go on those trips by average. Should we cut out Big Y versus Big E? Should we go to Stop and Shop in Northampton? These are all things we're crunching on right now to make sure that our grocery shopping program meets the needs of the most people and their desires. But at the same time, as I said, as these trends, we're doing so many more things now where we were witnessing them making friends with each other. Well, then they're going grocery shopping with their friends who live next door to them at Cliffview. So then they're not coming with us. And there's like generational changes, tech changes. So we want to make sure that because it takes the same number of driver hours and dispatch hours to deliver transportation to slightly fewer people, which is what's happening with grocery shopping and errands, we want to use that time as efficiently as we can. So that's what we're really thinking about. But medical rides and then those trips we do, the outings, those are about the same. So that's the update I have for you on transportation for now.
I just wanted to make a side note with Big Y rides decreasing slightly. It could factor just the cost of food. It's increased really incredibly. And that particular Big Y in Southampton, this is from a friend of mine who's in the food distribution business, stated that that Big Y in particular is more expensive than other Big Ys. So, I mean, people might just be choosing alternatives.
It's also really hard to physically navigate unless you get into one of those carts, you know? It's a huge store, so a lot of people prefer Biggies for that. But we could take people to Stop and Shop and see if it's cheaper for them and if they like it better, but it's still a huge store. They're gonna have to learn the store and it takes us more time to get there. So we have to weigh that carefully. We did go to Aldi's and it was not popular, but doesn't mean that
Just one quick thought that sometimes grocery shopping can be one of those mundane things like, okay, I've got to go pick up some stuff. And the generations coming, I mean, I see it all day long. People that have in Walmart, whatever, delivered on their front steps. I'm wondering if from time to time we could make grocery shopping, if you will, somewhat of a destination where you might go to Atkins or you might go to a destination spot like that, which is more than just grocery shopping. It's kind of an experience.
So we
right?
do. We do. Will takes people to Atkins. They go shopping. They have lunch. It's totally social time. We go to Mountain Farms Mall, although we don't go to the Walmart there. We go to the Walmart in Westfield, which is basically people going grocery shopping. And we're considering not going to Northampton anymore, because it's not a grocery shopping destination. But so we do that, but there's only so much of that we can do. It's very efficient to take people to Biggie's or Big Y because it's so close to their homes. And what we do is we break it into smaller groups and ferry them back and forth and have this kind of thing going on so people have enough time to shop and then get home before their ice cream melts and, that kind of thing. And if anybody ever wants to come and see what it's like and go with us grocery shopping, let me know. Okay.
Alrighty, move along then to old business, the building project update. Any members?
I'll just say our last meeting, our second meeting, if you will, focused again on what I believe is going to be one of the most difficult things is site selection. Obviously, once we find a site, we can get an architect that's going to work with us to develop a building that fits on that site, that works for that site. But all I could say about that at this point is that there's some high-level vetting being done about all the sites, issues that the ad hoc committee wasn't aware of or wasn't even asked to dig into. We basically were asked to identify sites. Now some of that vetting, getting in the weeds, if you will, and Allison Manuel, who's the city planner, is a big help with that, finding some of the issues that are pros and cons further down into the weeds. So we're just going through that process and probably will for the next couple of months. And that's moving along. I think the next biggest thing after site selection and design and all that is going to be a full court press to sell this to the public of why we need it and how we're going to get it funded.
There is a step in between, which is asking for an appropriation to hire the professional that would evaluate the site,
Do like the feasibility study.
whether that's an architect and an engineer or just an engineer or whatnot. So that's being brought up at the meeting on the 24th of November.
City council meeting?
No, at the building committee
Oh,
meeting.
okay.
So if any, and I've been telling this to participants, people have not been coming to public speak. There's 10 minutes set aside for public speak this Monday. If anybody just even wants to come and say what they think about a new center, they should come. They should come. And the mayor's been coming to those meetings also.
I had a question that when I was listening to the mayor's forums before the election, I know the mayor that was elected repeatedly mentioned the intergenerational facility. I wasn't sure exactly what it means. Is it thinking of a gym and having younger people in, or just having an event, or?
I think he's thinking along those lines of the possibility of things like basketball courts that would be after hours potentially. That hasn't even really been vetted out at all.
I know.
Yeah, I think he was more along the lines of just trying to think outside of the box as
Right.
to,
Right.
you know, if he gets elected, and these are some of the things.
And, you know,
Go for it. Crystal.
There are, I'd be happy to send a list of senior centers that I know of that are senior centers / community centers, if you're interested in learning more information. One of the most successful, like hybrid combination is in Mashpee, Mass. They built a new senior center / community center, and it seems to go very, very well there, but there has been kind of the concerns are like who's responsible for what, when, whether it's like Parks and Recs does, you know, the after hours evening programs, or if the senior center wants to have something in the evening, is it then needing to get approval from Parks and Recs to utilize the space that is already, you know, supposed to be for seniors. So that kind of has been like the point of contention with that model in the past when I was working in the field. But I know that Patty Shaughnessy, the previous executive director of Northampton, when I was in Northampton at the senior center, she has a home in Ashby, and she said that how they do it has been the most successful program in the state. So I'll definitely look into some other options and send you guys an email just so you have the
That'd be great.
comparison.
It may be premature, but I was just wondering.
Because I know Long Meadow has a stunning senior center.
Yeah, in Long Meadow, the track is open to everyone, and I believe the outdoor pickleball courts are also open to everyone. I cannot remember from our meetings whether or not the indoor pickleball court has hours for seniors and hours for others, but I know that Long Meadow is utilized multi-generational, especially because of their indoor walking court. So yeah, it is. I actually, I never had an experience with it, but when I was in Northampton, I thought it was a phenomenal idea because during the summers, we would have different theater groups that would come in to rehearse in the great room, and then they would put on a show for the seniors. And it was like, we did have people that kind of like the naysayers, you know, who were like, oh, I want the senior center to be just for seniors. But the majority of the seniors that participated in Northampton were very open to having kids and having programs available for everyone. Like the indoor farmers market, they were open, they wanted it. They're like, well, why should it just be for seniors? So I definitely think it's something that we should think about. You know, I think that I think there's a good way to do it as long as the space and the designation for who utilizes the space when, sorry, my blood sugar is going low. Glucose test. And who utilizes the space when, I think as long as all of that information is kind of thought about in advance, as well as like the responsibility for who funds what type of like building monitors and things like that.
I think that's definitely possible. points you raised, Crystal, do have to be worked out. How do you coexist when you're doing things at the same time? Who's staffing what? So you're gonna have a basketball court that's open till 8 o'clock at night. Who's staffing that? Securing the rest of the building. But one of the thoughts that just came to mind is we could say, and I'm just throwing out round numbers. Don't anybody hold me to these numbers. Let's just say that a senior center costs $20 million. And all these other beautiful things would add another 10 million. It's possible, we did it with the school, Mountain View School. We had what we called adult alternatives. And we basically said, if the residents support the dollar figure to this amount, we'll do all this stuff. But if they don't support it to this amount, we're gonna have to cut. And we prioritize the cuts. So we had a roundabout was an adult, and then some of the other, the maintenance building.
Right.
The track, I think, around the football field. Some of the finishes, those were all alternatives. You what?
The pool.
The pool. Those
Didn't
were
make
all
the cut.
add alternatives that if you hit this number, we can do all this stuff. But if we don't, we're gonna peel them off, and we're gonna peel them off in this order. We actually had to prioritize.
Right.
We're gonna peel them off in this order.
Yeah.
So that's a definite possibility when it comes to funding. Somebody might say, what are you nuts, a $30 million senior center? Well, it's because we have these 5 things that we're gonna add, that if we only get approval for 20 million, then these are the 5 things we're gonna cut.
Right, like, Kathy. So we,
Leslie
sorry.
was first. Did you have anything to add? That's a little bit ago.
for example, everybody has said to us, almost the most important thing is storage. And it often gets cut. So I would hate to see, in the interest of, well, we want to save money so we can have a gym that does more things so that kids can also use it after school. And then we don't have storage and we can't do all the things,
Right.
we could do with
Right.
each space.
Yeah.
Would be foolish. So yes.
I think in that example I just gave, storage would be part of the 20 million.
Right.
In other words, it's part of what we can't live
Core.
without.
The core.
Yeah.
The adults are gonna be a pickleball court, a
Right,
basketball
whatever.
court.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit, added in. But then when the voters say, we're only gonna approve this amount,
Yeah.
then that's what you have to shave off.
Thank you. All right, into new business. Cindy, you're back on the block.
Okay, so I don't know how many of you know that November is now Family Caregiver Month. That was a proclamation made by the governor. I sent you a link to it and I brought a copy of it. So I tried to find out, well, what does this mean to us at the senior center level? What services are being increased or highlighted, or, and I tried to go on the state website and figure out what are they offering for family caregivers. There are supports, but there isn't money attached yet, I think, to say pay for a social worker-led support group for family caregivers in your community. It's like, I think this is more like opening the door to more services, opening the door to a statewide council or committee task force that's working on things. So I would just say, if you're interested in family caregiving and what is Massachusetts doing to pay for respite care, support groups, counseling, and concrete services, let's be on the lookout for what that is. We know that at our senior center, we don't have a lot to proclaim about how we support family caregivers. We have little things we do, and we have like the project we'd like to get into with the speech and language pathologists, but we don't have money that we give for respite care and point people to where could they get a respite carer to come over so that their family member could just go shopping or come to the senior center. We don't have, a center where it's easy to bring your person in and help them go to the bathroom because the stalls don't have room for 2 people and that kind of thing. Like we're not family caregiving friendly in some ways, and in some ways we are. Like, you can ride with us if you're being a companion to your person when they need to go to the dentist and that kind of thing. So when I thought about this, it was a little bit late when I found out about this, but I thought, okay, so next year, November, should we make a big deal? It's Family Caregiver Month, and like, what would we have to offer? You know, I'm not sure. So I just wanted to point out that it is super important, and a lot of family caregivers are not just caring for their spouse or their mom or dad. They might be taking care of children or grandchildren too. And some of them might still be working, like a 55 to 60-year-old that we serve, or to 65-year-old sandwich generation, which is referred to in here. So just in terms of our strategic planning, thinking about family caregiving, just calling attention to it was all I had on my docket about that.
We could always ask for volunteers to sit with the person while the caregiver comes to the center for a shared meal. You know, it might be an hour and a half, something on that idea. You know, people who are vetted, it's like a companion driver like myself. I'm already attached and vetted to the center, and yeah, would I be able to go inside and sit with somebody? Absolutely, you know, that type of thing. To allow the caregiver to leave.
And our policy does allow for, if you can't participate in the senior center independently, but somebody could come with you, and then you could kind of see, could they do an art project with the person kind of sitting next to them and helping them along. It does allow for that. But it's just that people have to decide, can they deal with the fact that they can't easily pull up and drop off, they can't easily toilet somebody, they can't necessarily park at the center, and they have to walk. So there's just sort of considerations that I think we've heard from people that they've ruled out using the senior center because of those things. But that's a wonderful idea about having
Celebrating them.
companions who come in, and yeah, so that's a thought. And if people have other ideas, I'm writing that one down. Please let me know.
Alrighty, soliciting new business items. I think in the future, as we develop the agenda, we'd love feedback from anyone on the board. And I think in the future, about a week before or 10 days before I have to put the agenda in, I may just send a quick email out to everyone and just find out if you have any agenda items that maybe come to surface. But I entertain any suggestions or thoughts that people might have now for in the future, any business items. I know we seem to be jam-packed, you know, each month, but sometimes it seems to be a struggle just finding, okay, what do we want to talk about and accomplish this time. I think we've been doing a lot of work.
I know, like, when things come up, sometimes it's short notice for me, but I would love to have volunteer opportunities for board members added to the agenda each month, because sometimes it's hard for me to make too much advance notice, but then again, short notice can be difficult as well based on what's going on. So if we had agenda items of volunteer opportunities for board members at the senior center, to me, that would help me to be able to become more involved in the senior center, aside from the meetings and when Cindy asks for things.
Kind of like the notice Cindy put out, a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was helpful.
Yeah, it is helpful. So,
Yeah.
if we could add opportunities for board members to the agenda, that would be beneficial for me at least.
Like the January through March meal program on Tuesdays.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like I'm available on Tuesdays.
Yes,
So that-
we may be asking you to
And you
drive
may need
people
help
to
for
it,
it.
too. Or drive people home from it, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an excellent suggestion. And I was gonna say we need to put an item on just probably soon about membership again. I know we have one member,
To the board.
yeah.
Oh, yes. And then also, I'm sure in the next month or two, we'll have the forum back up in terms of, once we meet again, and determine the forum for the spring.
The forum is selected.
Right,
and is being planned.
right.
Mhm.
So we did decide on the dementia.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a staff person, there's a meeting happening on it soon with the hospital to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
And to try to figure
But I'm
out.
sure that'd be back on the agenda.
Are any of the McLean people available that gave that fabulous presentation on dementia?
Not for that forum. That forum is strictly Pioneer Valley Memory Care Initiative. The McLean folks who did a lot of MCOA training I'm not sure what they're doing next. They just did one on boarding disorder. And then I'm not sure what's next.
Cindy, I thought for a moment or two our board was full.
So our board is full. We do have one board member who's now missed 2 meetings without warning. And then the third meeting, if they meet without warning, then we would need to send them.
Your time.
And the current mayor is happy to, have a continuous recruitment program where it's like just always identifying people in the community who might be interested and could submit an application on the off chance that there is a vacancy is more than welcome. So if somebody out in the community has skills and knowledge and the time to bring to this board, which is basically 1 meeting a month from 12 to 1, the third Tuesdays of the month, and sometimes being on committees, and then being a booster for the Council on Aging Matters and older adults in the community is the role, then, they can send in an application using the board and committee form that's online.
All right. Thank you for that input. I don't see anyone for public speak. So without anything else, I'll
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Second? Marie seconds it. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.